Hey guys, it's your boy Carlos Imani back again with Elite Insights. And today we are going into the art of holding and handling the mic. A lot of folks, we see people on stage and we don't really, get an opportunity to figure out what goes into it. What's the magic of what makes an event? For me, it's like if you don't have someone that can help you facilitate properly, you're going to set yourself up for disaster. So today I have the pleasure of being joined by Sasha Summer Cousineau. Hey, hello, Sasha.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Just like I said, I wanted to kind of create some space and let people know a little bit about what goes into the event sides from where you are. Most people get to sit and watch and it just happens, but don't understand that there's a lot that goes into that and just want to kind of create space.
I had somebody who was at an event the other day who knows me well, like has known me for years, said, from my perspective, it doesn't seem like you do that much. Seems like you just show up to the event. And I said, I am so glad that as an audience member, that is the experience that you have, because it means you're not taking yourself out of the experience and wondering, like we're not giving you cause to wonder about the behind the scenes, which means that we are prepared and we have planned and we are nimble and we can roll with the punches and we can improv, right? And we can do all of that because of all the, like when I got that comment, some people might think I would be offended.
Right.
Are you kidding me? I just show up? How dare you? But instead, I was like, I'm so glad that's your experience. And that actually speaks to the amount of work that I'm doing with my nonprofit partners long before event day. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, seriously, that's like a badge of honor. It's like, can you write that and put that on my Google review page? As I like to say with people, like, our best job is done when you don't even know we're there.
Yes.
It's like not memorable.
As
like,
technicians, yes.
Exactly. So it's
opposite for me.
Right, exactly. You guys want to be there, but for us, it's that translation, like you said, of, having a host that can not let folks know that we are putting out fires. Because things happen. Like you might have your keynote speaker is, delayed for whatever reason, and we got to figure out how to save 15 minutes, and you just work the crowd and do the thing, and no one knows, and then they're there. All right, here's your mic. All right, go on stage, and it's just like an eye, a wink, a something, and now we have so-and-so coming up. So, it's definitely an art. So whenever you get a compliment like that, that's awesome to hear for sure. So I always like to kind of start off of level setting and kind of talk about how, what's some of your first memories of working with Elite Collective or Carlos Imani and just kind of setting like a stage there.
Yeah. I mean, the first time we worked together was sort of tail end of the pandemic. I think it was the end. Well, I mean, that's debatable about when it all started and when it all ended. But let me be more specific. The end of 2021.
Right.
When some organizations were making the move back to in-person events, but not all were. So there was that period of time where we were all virtual, all gathering online. If we were gathering in person, they were very different sort of events than what we see typically before or after. But we worked on an event called Friends of the Children, and we did 2-in-1 on that one. So there was the virtual, there was the online gathering of a broader community, and then there was a smaller in-person gathering. And we did those both in the span of like a couple days, right?
Yeah, I think it was like a Wednesday, Friday or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and at that time I was still doing event planning with Synchronicity Events. So I had my producer hat on, but you all managed literally every technical element of the virtual. And then when we moved into the in-person space, you handled, or your team handled the sound, the lights, the projection, and photography and videography. Yeah, you did a lot. So you were rolling deep on both those events. And that is kind of my experience of working with Elite Collective, that you are not a skeleton crew, that you come into an event as this fully fledged, fully thought through team with a variety of people who have different skill sets that all overlap and complement each other. And the joy of that, when you're somebody like me on stage, is that I don't have a lot of these hiccups that I have to like kind of fake the funk and try to pretend like nothing's happening. I'm like, oh, showbiz, I'm smiling, but something is going really wild with those slides. we can run events with fewer people than I've seen Elite Collective show up with. And maybe sometimes people choose that cost savings. I'm going to say that labor of skilled professionals is not exactly the area where people want to look for cost savings. So again, when I'm showing up to Elite Collective, I've never seen you not with 5 or more people. Maybe that's just the very specific subset of events that I've worked with you on. But again, the joy of that is we have a pair of skilled hands for every single piece of equipment, and it makes every tech transition roll more seamlessly. And then it's more people, because here's the reality of live events. We all go in with plans. We all go in with copious plans, right? And we've prepared and we've worked together and we've like put this recipe together and we think we've baked it. But when you get to the live event environment, you cannot control everything that happens in a live event. And so you have to walk in with that plan so that then you can improv. It's informed improv, right? And my experience, again, of working with Elite Collective is that you are in it with your clients beforehand. You are taking time to understand their goals, their values, their needs, their vision for the event, so that when something technically goes wrong or something weird happens in the environment, you can improv, but from a really informed place. Like, I know what the client wants to achieve is X. So here's our quick pivot in real time. And that's a thing that I do all the time is on stage. So your work behind the scenes, while you do kind of want to fade, and I want the opposite. Like, I want to be very present and engaged and engaging with the audience and having them see and hear me. We go in with a similar approach, which is tons of preparation, tons of getting synchronized with each other as vendors, tons of getting synchronized with our clients, so that on event day, when we're in a real world environment where anything can happen, when we have to go off script, we're doing it from an informed foundation, and we're doing it with our clients' best interests in mind. We're doing it with supporting each other as event professionals, and how do we do this? And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. That's not a good day at work for me, and it doesn't make me look good when I'm like, oh, it's their fault on AV, right? We all want to be good team players, and so it's that type of advanced work that lets us do that. So that's been my experience working with your team in multiple events now. So we did the Friends of the Children, and we did, what was the other one? Oh,
we had the Pottery Northwest. That was a fun one. Great group. And yeah, no, I mean, everything that you're talking about is just right aligned, and it's cool because, you know, I'm hearing that, kind of knew that that's kind of what went into it. I don't know if every MC and auctioneer has your kind of prep. I feel like you're kind of a special unicorn in that. When I worked with you as a producer, where you were, you know, on it, you had your spreadsheets and all your stuff. And then when I moved and saw you on, you know, the email list as the MC, like, oh, cool, I get to work with Sasha again. Because one, I know you're going to be a professional, you're going to be on time, you're going to show up, you're going to bring the energy. And then just having that tacit knowledge, right, is super helpful. Because you have some folks that may transition from a different environment and that might have worked well where they were. But when you're doing like live events, galas, fundraisers, it's like, it's a special kind of skill set. Knowing that you had that background is like, okay, I have another person that gets it. Because sometimes, you know, we work with an organization that they may be new to events themselves, and you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And they're leaning on us, and, you know, we kind of lead them in the right direction. We're like, you know, you probably don't want to go that way. Yeah. This is how it's presented itself with other events. Your decision to make, but this is what I suggest. Yeah. But seeing and knowing, so seeing you on the email, it's like, okay, great, get to work with her again, and knowing that you're gonna come and prep, and, you know, you're on those, you know, those stumble throughs and those different calls, and like so many things. I tell, like, as many practices as we can get, as many, you know, emails are just basic things where people know, because a lot of times I see MCs like they're literally seeing the run of show when they get there.
That gives me anxiety just thinking of it. I don't even know how. First of all, okay, I've said this to my clients before. Could you literally hand me a script the moment I arrive at your event, and I could get on your stage and read this script and do a job? I'm going to say a job. Right. Yeah, I could do it. Sure, I could. I have been on stage truly my whole life. The first thing I ever emceed was in the 4th grade. I am 50 years old. I have emceed all of those years in between. That's a lot of years. Please don't do the math. I'm an elder gay. What can I say? But, you know, I could do that. But is that what allows me to do my best work? Is that what allows me to represent my brand as an MC and fundraising auctioneer? Is that what allows me to be the best storyteller for my nonprofit client? Is it what best allows me to amplify and elevate their message, their values? Is that what best allows me to center their work, to describe their outcomes and impacts? Is that what best allows me to make any guest speaker who's coming on stage feel held and supported and respected, right? Does that allow me to engage authentically with an audience? And the answer to every one of those questions is no. I don't leave anything to chance. I tell my clients, when we go into contract, I require no less than 3 meetings. Because to be perfectly honest, 3 meetings feels like the lowest possible bar for me to ethically get on your stage on the biggest fundraising day of your year and be an appropriate ambassador for your work, your mission, your vision, your values, your programs, your impacts. I cannot possibly do that without less than 3 meetings. More is more better. I'm like you, Carlos. I'm like, yes, I will have 10 meetings. If that's what it takes to get us so that we are aligned, so that I really understand your, again, mission, vision, values, programs, et cetera, your impacts, so that I understand your specific goals for this event, so that I understand the way your organization wants to talk to your donor community, the way you like to engage your donor community. If it makes it so that I understand your top level messaging points and how we're going to artfully weave them through your whole program, if it makes it so I get to be in community with your other vendors, yes, more is more better. Because could I get on stage if they handed me a script? Yes, I could. I mean, I've done talk radio. I've been handed scripts moments before I got on a microphone, and I did just fine. But our fundraising events are more than just fundraisers. They are moments to be in community. They are moments to engage people in our work, in our storytelling. And I think all of that, like any good relationship, deserves care. It deserves nurturing. And care and nurturing is not a one-time act. It's a process. It's a relationship.
No, absolutely. And what I'm hearing is just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
As an elder once said, and no, that rings so true. And it's just one of those things where you just have to get on the same page. And folks, they kind of, you mentioned it, like literally this is your biggest fundraising day of your entire year. And I understand that you have the work that you're doing. And sometimes some of these orgs, folks are kind of put on a committee or, given an extra hat, and they have their day job, right? The stuff that they need to do that's relative to the work that they do. But, this night is going to help raise funds to help with that programming and with that work, and should be given that care. Because I, sometimes have been in situations where it almost feels like they don't care, and it's like, I can't care more for your thing than you do, right? It's hard to bring that same energy. And usually we correct the ship once we kind of have those conversations like you just spoke about. And I loved every single one of those things of kind of throwing it back, where it's like, all the things that you listed, right? Like, can I be my best self? A through Z, and the answer is no if we don't communicate, if we don't have those meetings. And it's literally like, help me help you. That's what we're talking about.
Well, I've felt that vibe too when I've been working with a client, a partner nonprofit organization, and I'm like, why does it seem like I care about this more than you? And here is what I've learned. And this also comes from my own personal experience. So I actually come from the nonprofit sector. So you kind of teased around the edges of this a little bit, but when a nonprofit staff person who is in charge of throwing an event gives you that vibe, that is overwhelm. That is overwhelm. I don't believe in this whole, the nonprofit sector overworked and underpaid. That's not okay, right? I can't control what a nonprofit organization is able to fundraise. I can't control what a nonprofit organization is able to pay its staff. But I don't buy into the trope that being overworked and underpaid because you choose to work in the nonprofit sector is okay. You're a worker. You're a laborer. You might go to work because you care about an issue, but you also go to work because you have a rent or a mortgage to pay and healthcare insurance that you need, and you got to get groceries and you have other bills, right? So part of, I think, the value add of working with a skilled and caring event professional, someone like you, someone like me, is that we're able to help this overwhelmed nonprofit staff person hopefully be less overwhelmed. How do we help folks like that? Well, one of the things is that I think that we need to think about the whole donor community when we think about events. So the whole community that helps this event go, that includes the staff, that includes the board, that includes the volunteers, includes the people who are donating items if you're doing a live auction, it includes the donors who are giving cash in advance of the event, it includes the donors who are showing up to be at the event and to raise their paddle or to spend money or buy tickets, so on and so forth. This is all one big community that is making this event a living, breathing, real thing that hopefully all of us as a community are able to guide it to success. When you're working with event professionals like us, we're able to tell you where to spend your investments of time and energy. Money investments, yes, but money is only one part of the equation when it comes to the nonprofit staff worker who is overwhelmed, right? When I'm working with a staff person who clearly seems like they're drinking water out of a fire hose, one of the first things I want to do is think about ways that we can help you work smarter, not harder. Where are you spinning plates for no reason, right? And how can I help you set down plates that you're spinning for no reason? And instead, what are the mission critical investments in your time and energy? So let's not have you throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. That's not a strategy. Let's have you use tried and true tactics, tried and true fundraising strategies. Let's have you invest properly in your event so you know where you can find cost savings. But I'm going to help create a plan and a strategy with these folks that helps them spend less time at work and achieve better outcomes at the event. And I think that's what you do as well.
No, absolutely. We come in trying to figure out, where I actually go back even a little bit further of kind of identifying with the person and connecting with them on a human level. Like you said, they're overwhelmed. Generally, the heart's in it. It's hard to be in any of that kind of service-based, mission-based work and not have your heart in it.
Yeah.
But like you said, there are some burnout things and things of that nature. But what I like to drill it down to is kind of figuring out, that cross-section of what do you like to do and what are you good at?
Yeah.
Right. You have some people that may not be good at numbers and they're kind of tasked with putting together this spreadsheet or run a show and they just, Excel just gives them anxiety. It's like, well, I have a template. Would that be helpful? Yeah. Oh, yes. Those kinds of things where I'm not trying to, step over you, but let me step with you. Let me walk with you in that sense. And like you said, we've done 50 of these, hundreds. I mean, like your exact event, we've done it before.
Exactly.
So where are you at in the process? And maybe you're really good at connecting with donors. Spend time doing that.
Exactly.
Have more lunches.
As a matter of fact, yes, please do spend time with donors and don't puzzle over an Excel spreadsheet. Do not recreate something that we have used as work tools over and over and over again. Like how many events does Elite Collective do on an average year?
Oh, geez, too many.
I mean, I did 55 last year. I'm probably going to do 60 events this year.
Yeah.
And so chances are, if you need an example of an event planning timeline, do I have one? I sure do. If you need an example of a run of show, do I have one? Hundreds, maybe thousands. Do you need a sample script? Got you. Do you need a sample budget, income and expense breakdown? Got you. What is it that you need an example of that you can simply modify and make yours for your organization for this event? Chances are one of us has got that because you all as a team are doing hundreds of these a year. I as an individual am doing probably, I think 60 this year. Fingers crossed.
60.
Fingers crossed. Let's go. But yeah, so that's one way that working with a skilled, experienced event professional can save you time and energy. Like lean on those resources and then, spend more time with donors.
And the relationships, like how many additional folks do you know, right? In terms of like, do you need a DJ or a band person or a whatever, food, any of those kinds of things. And that's where I think we've been able to really develop great relationships with the folks we've had the pleasure to work with, where my goal is to be a one phone call thing. Hey, Carlos, we want to do this. Awesome. What's your date? Sounds good. We're available. What else? Paint your picture for me. What are you thinking? And then as they're going on, like, do you have your food yet? Do you have your this? Do you have your that? Do you have your that? well, I have some people for
Exactly.
you if you need it. And you know, you're the same way where you have all those bits and pieces, and you might, you know, you've hit us up, hey, you know, hey, you guys available this week? And if we're not, you have other AV folks that you've worked with that are awesome and amazing. Like the Northwest is not a drought of talent. There's a lot of people, and there's something that will fit your event the way that you need it to be, and rely on the professional. Like you said, you've done 60. So out of that 60, you know, like literally every theme you can think of, oh, we have to have Parisian food. Excellent. Okay. We have someone amazing for you, right? And all the things. So it's like one of those things of, don't look at your, you know, your event professional as just like a one line item thing of like, okay, contract signed and a line item. Cause some folks, that's how they approach it, where it's like, okay, I've been given this task. I'm, you know, overworked. Let me just, you know, cross out all these things, where it's like, if you take the time to have a little bit more of a developed and just a bigger conversation about it, so much more can be, you can get out of your event professional, or at least you'd hope to. Folks like us, we can give that to you for sure. And it's folks that, like I say, like, would I wouldn't send someone to you that I wouldn't have at my own event or wedding or whatever. And my son's birthday, we go crazy. It's kind of a family holiday party too. He's a December baby, but we literally like use the decorations person that, you know, we use at the gala, and then, you know, the food people that also work at other large events and stuff. And it's, you know, we build that relationship.
Well, and the thing about, you know, yes, you can go to the Google machine and find any number of DJs and any number of photographers and any number of videographers and any number of caterers. But if you say, hey, Carlos, or hey, Sasha, I'm in a pickle. I can't find a cashier and registration company. Do you know somebody? Or I can't find AV or sound. If they're talking to me, obviously, if they're talking to you, they found it. The other good thing about that is I'm not just handing you a company and a phone number. What I'm handing you is somebody that I've worked with multiple times. I've seen their work. I've been behind the scenes with them, advanced the work. So I know what their advanced work is. I know what their on-site work is. I also know that their price points are amenable to my nonprofit clients. So, you know, who I would refer to somebody in a corporate entity probably doesn't look the same as what I would refer to for a nonprofit partner. The quality is the same, right? But I need to make sure that any vendor that is going to work with one of my nonprofit partners, that they're right sizing their fees to the budgets of a nonprofit culture, without compromising quality. We still need quality. The other thing is, not all vendors are right for the same client, or for different clients. So, you know, wedding versus corporate versus nonprofit. In nonprofit culture, I come from the nonprofit sector, and so it is a culture. I like vendors who understand the way nonprofits think, what their priorities are, who understand the type of storytelling that elevates and centers missions and visions and impacts, who understand this type of storytelling that connects with donors, both intellectually and from a heart space, right? So, you know, and we can do all of those things. Like, caterers know how to tell a story. AV companies know how to tell a story. Photographers know how to tell a story. Auctioneers, MCs know how to tell a story. And maybe all of us aren't right for other clients, but we're really right for these nonprofit clients because we understand the culture, we understand the stakes, we understand the why of nonprofit fundraising.
No, absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we've kind of, not that we don't take on the corporate clients, they'll come, you know, we've worked with the Amazons and the Googles and Microsofts and whatnot. And they're great, you know, to do it. And, you know, they have their budgets, they have their vision, we execute. But for me, it's just that little bit extra that you get when you're working with a mission-driven organization, and you get to film that impact video where you're going and, you know, talking with that family that, you know, I'll use Friends as an example. Their story was dope when I got introduced to them. Like, wait, you guys stick with them from 5 years old all the way to 18? Yes. That is amazing. It is amazing. Right? And they're paying the people a stipend to work with them because they know that it's more than just time, and they're able to, you know, invest in them so they can invest in those families and stuff, and being able to capture those stories. It's cool because, like, you get, I mean, right, with all things, it's light, it's camera, we press record, but the stories that you're telling through that is awesome. And then obviously when it shows up in space, it's that same thing times 10, because it's like you see all the littles and the bigs and the people and all the different parts of the story and how it all comes together. And then you leave that, you know, that day that might be 10, 12 hours, but you feel like, man, that was worth it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because you could be spending your time doing anything.
Yes.
But when you get that level is just like one of those extra like little things that helps you to keep it going, helps you with your why. Like, why do I do this? Like, oh yeah, that's why. You know, you see the faces and you see the expressions and the ends of the evenings. Most of these events, they're annual, so we see them, you know, once a year. But a lot of those people see each other once a year.
Yes,
so they end up being these family reunion type of vibe, and just being able to be a part of that every single time is just really, really cool.
Yeah, that is really sweet.
So we went a little bit out of order. I had a thing, and that's what happens when you get some creatives in the room. But I did want to create space for folks. Like for me, I met you first as a producer, and then quickly like, oh wait, you also MC. This is awesome. And then, oh, you also auction, and this is awesome. But wanted to kind of see what drew you to this kind of work, and what keeps you in it. So I heard you started at 5 or 5th grade, and and worked till now. But curious of like what that journey was like.
Well, so when I say I feel fortunate, like, I mean, it is a privilege. It's a combination of privilege and luck and hard work and dreaming that got me to have this specific job serving the nonprofit sector on stage as a fundraising auctioneer and MC. And it wasn't like a super linear journey. But there
it didn't go exactly as planned?
It didn't go A, B, C, D, E, F, arrived, right? Like, it was like ping pong, ping pong. Oh, wow, I think I'm at a place. Am I at a place? I think so. So there are 2 tracks that sort of happened parallel to each other in my life that began more and more and more to intersect, sometimes by accident, but gradually more and more intentionally. One, I told you, I grew up on stage. I emceed the first thing I ever emceed in the 4th grade. I was a theater kid. I didn't finish, but started college as a theater major with an acting emphasis. But I grew up doing, you know, some people went to summer camp. I went to summer theater school, you know, and I was in musicals, and I did dancing, and I did singing, and I did acting, and all variations thereof. And so that was like my little life all the way through my early years in college. College came, and, you know, we contain multitudes.
Right.
And I finally, for the first time in my life, realized, hey, maybe I am more than a stage person. Maybe I actually have an intellect. Maybe I have more to offer. And I started to really explore my interest in social justice. And so I switched majors and started going down that track. And that had me in my first nonprofit organization job while I was still in college, starting as a volunteer, then an intern, then a staff person, working in a safe house for victims and survivors of domestic violence. And so as soon as I graduated college, I then went on to work with domestic violence victims and survivors, helping through legal advocacy. I moved away from my college town to Denver. And then from there, went on to serve in a larger nonprofit where we served both domestic violence and sexual assault victims and survivors, variety of programs, pardon me. And at some point was running the sexual assault crisis services unit there. And we had a variety of programs to serve that community. From there, I came to Seattle and started working for Pro-Choice Washington. So working on abortion rights, contraception, safer sex, so on and so forth, but from a policy standpoint. So I went from direct service into policy advocacy, and worked there for 9 years. But what was happening with my onstage life and my sort of working within the nonprofit sector, whether it was direct service or advocacy, in my later years at Pro-Choice Washington, I went into fundraising.
Okay.
So I was the person hiring people like me.
Right.
Hiring people like you.
You were the overwhelmed
organization. So I was at times, but I did carry a fierce clipboard, and that clipboard meant business, I tell you.
I love it.
So I've been making spreadsheets for a long time. So I got out of direct service and out of sort of front lines advocacy, activisty stuff, still in the nonprofit sector, and started doing the fundraising. So I was our clients. Mm-hmm. And, but those two things stage life and activisty, nonprofit, fundraising life were happening in parallel, but also intersecting. So every single nonprofit I worked for, starting with the one I worked at right after I graduated college, would put me on stage. You're good talking on mic. Why don't you do this thing at the event? Sure. I love this work. I love our mission. I'll get on stage and say a thing, right? And that gradually grew to, well, maybe you could just MC the whole thing. And then that graduated to, hey, I saw you MCing that thing. Could you come MC ours? And that graduated to, and that graduated to, and that graduated to, and like a snowball going downhill, it built momentum. And then at some point, I was still working in the nonprofit sector, but I was emceeing or doing catalog reading or doing something for a lot of other nonprofits. And when I decided to leave the nonprofit sector, I left to serve the nonprofit sector as a full-scale event planner. So working with Synchronicity Events, that team, Alex Martin's team. And I worked for Synchronicity as a full-scale event planner, no longer inside the nonprofit sector, but external to it, serving almost all fundraising events, frankly, almost all. But then still getting asked, will you come MC? Will you come catalog read? That grew to, will you raise the paddle for us? So not full scale auctioneering.
There's levels.
Yeah, there's levels. I could read those numbers. There is so much more to a raise the paddle. Let me say right here, right now, for the record, doing a raise the paddle is not just reading numbers. There's a lot of strategy. There's a lot of care. And if you're me, ding, there's a lot of art and joy. So people started asking me to raise the paddles, but because I'd worked in the nonprofit sector, I understood why a raise the paddle worked the way it did. I understood why MCs and auctioneers performed them the way they did. I understood the baked in goals. I understood the stretch goals. I understood, right? And so I was like, sure, I'll do that. And then people started asking me, will you be our auctioneer? I was like, nope, I don't know how to do that. Here's 5 phone numbers. Please go call somebody who knows how to do that job, because that's a whole profession. And I'm not it. And people kept asking and asking. And then finally I was like, well, I'll try a small one. And so I did a couple really small ones, and it was really evident where my natural skill for being on stage and like holding and guiding an audience was there. It was really evident where my knowledge of being the client, and organizing events, both as a nonprofit staff person, as an event planner, where that lent itself to this role of being a full-scale auctioneer. But there was some stuff I just didn't know. So I started saying no again until one of my clients, who's my client to this day, was like, I'm not saying we won't take no for an answer. I'm just saying we really believe you're our auctioneer, and we believe it with our whole hearts. And we really, really hope you'll sleep on it and consider it. And I was like, how do I get out of this? And then I called my 3 best advisors, my wife, one of my best friends, and my father. And I was like, I have this problem. These people want me to do this thing. And all of them were like, the issue is what? So I was like, you're not helping me. So I was like, is there an auctioneer school? Guess what? There are auctioneer schools. And so most auctioneer schools don't exactly teach, not all, what it means to be a fundraising auctioneer. But they taught me the few things I didn't know, that I didn't already know from being an onstage talent for my whole life, from working in the nonprofit sector, from being an event planner. It was, how do I set a starting bid? What are bid increments? How do I bid chant? That's the fast talking, right? Everybody, do you know how to do the fast talking? I do. But it's called the bid chant. And how do you sell? So it's really those very specific mechanics of auctioneering. The rest, the whole vast knowledge of what it means to be a fundraising auctioneer, I already knew most of based on my other experiences. I just needed this little to get me over the hump. And then as soon as I went to school and started doing fundraising auctioneering with this whole universe of knowledge, right? This really beautiful, well-rounded set. The only thing I was sad about is, why didn't I listen to the universe sooner, when the universe kept telling me, Sasha, you are called upon to do a thing. Because this is the best, most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. It gives my life meaning. I literally cry tears of joy. Like, I could cry right now just thinking about how fortunate I am to do this work, where I get to support nonprofits who I think are the hearts and moral compasses of our communities, where I get to support ideas, concept, work behavior that I believe in to help build the impacts we want to see and help build the world we want to live in. I get to take my whole set of values with me to work every single day. That is so privileged, and that is so fortunate, and it's just outrageous how lucky I am to have this job.
It's a job, right? It's crazy that I get to do this.
I get to do this.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
No, everything you're saying is like, I'm hearing, and it's just like, yes, and yes, and yes. I love that. Super similar journey on our side in terms of like just listening to the universe, right? So like with COVID, we came from a place of like myself, I was a photographer first, and then I would just keep on getting asked about things like, hey, that photo you took for me, do you know a graphic person that can turn that into a flyer? And I was like, well, maybe or whatever. But I was doing my own because I couldn't afford to pay someone. But I was designing my business card and my flyer. And then I kind of taught myself Photoshop. And it's like, sure, I could do that for you. And then it would turn into, we want to throw that on a website and same kind of thing. And, we need a video. Do you know any video guy? You have a camera. I was like, well, I can try out some things. And was able to kind of do all these things and kind of upskill myself, but then quickly saw that, well, one, I can't do every single job. So let me start to collect and gather these awesome creatives that I got a chance to work with. But then I was able to be that phone call, right? Where it's like, hey, can you guys, we need this, like, no problem. I have what you need. And if I don't, I probably know somebody. And then for me it was like, I enjoy all these different pieces, and sometimes I get to do the ones that I want when I want to do it. But my thing is like, know enough to be dangerous. And it also helps to communicate, right? Because there's a lot of things when talking to a client and talking to a creative, there's a lot of block where they're not even speaking the same language, right? Where they're talking about things. And I was able to kind of be that bridge and help to keep that going. But then when you talk about, being able to work with folks that are so mission aligned, where you can show up as your authentic self every day, every meeting, and you're not having to code switch and all these things. And it's like, I get to just communicate with these folks, and I get to, we're all like literally trying to get to the same place. Like, we want this better world. We want this, this impact to happen. And it's such a privilege. Like when you had mentioned that, it's like, yes, that absolutely. Cause there's some folks that, they might work more or whatever, but it's like, I would not trade for that. Cause you are losing a bit of your soul every time you step on that stage, or, every time you shoot that event or whatever. And it's just like, man, I am so grateful for all the clients that we have and the work that we get to do. And like you said, just to be able to see the joy. You had mentioned like the difference between like weddings, nonprofit, and everything. And we used to do weddings, not anymore, different lifetime. But a cool thing about a wedding is you get to be a part of someone's best day ever. Yeah. And that's kind of what the galas are like. Where like that same euphoria, just that energy that's in the air when such good is happening in a room. It's like, it just kind of fills you up, regardless of what you're going through in your own life, or how long that week was, or how long that day was. You've been pouring into everybody around you, but then you get to do this event that just fills you right back up. Yes. And it's just awesome. At the very least, I might need a massage or something the next day, because you might have been on your feet
a long
little
time,
too long,
carrying equipment.
But as far as the insides, the soul is full.
Yeah.
That's dope that we get to do this stuff.
Yes.
So everything that you just said was just like, yes, eat. I'm hearing it. But yeah, no, this is dope. I think we've been able to kind of share a lot in terms of, being able to provide value for folks that are, we're in a weird climate now, right? We kind of had a craziness coming out of COVID, and now we're kind of dealing with a different kind of crazy in terms of just not knowing what's going on.
The financial landscape is really shifting.
We have folks that like just straight up was like, hey, Carlos, we're going to postpone this year. We'll be back next year, but right now we just need to kind of hold it a little closer to our chest. Or other folks, hey, we're going to move forward, but we're going to do a little bit at a reduced kind of rate, and just different things. But our thing is like, we want to kind of provide some value and provide some things that people can take. And one of it is like, making sure that you're spending your time and energy in the right places, right? 'Cause that's one thing that you still have control over. You can't control, if funding's going to come through or not. But just being able to partner with the right folks that can help you get it across, regardless of what that looks like, and help guide what those next steps may be. But also just kind of want to talk about just fundraising in general, and some of these events of like, what have you seen in terms of like can make the difference in terms of how we should conduct this this event. What am I trying to say? Like what can help somebody that's like, all right, we're wanting to do this event, and we have this fixed budget. Where should we put our resources in terms of things that are like need to happen? Someone that hasn't done events before, because a lot of times I'll get these calls like, well, do we really need those lights, or do we need this or that? And just kind of, obviously I'm very biased coming from the tech side of things, but I want to hear from someone that's, been the client before, has been the event planner before, has been someone on stage trying to help you get your event across that board. What are some of those things that you can kind of share with folks?
Sure. I mean, Carlos, to be perfectly frank, we could have a whole separate 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hour conversation on suggestions.
Part 2 come in next.
But suggestions I can give to nonprofit organizations for strategies for lowering their expenses in events. And again, that is its whole conversation. But really the way I want to address your question is, what are the right-sized investments that you should make? And if you are going to continue to do, and maybe you're not, right? But if you're going to continue to do an in-person event, think about which of your event vendors are mission critical to your success. And I'm going to tell you that that's not the area where you want to cut corners. Truly, there are very many other ways to save money than by trying to get your event vendor to give you an inappropriately small bid. Can you pare down on the number of speakers? Can you pare down on the number of lights? I mean, really what you want to do is tell your event vendor, this is the event. This is what we're putting on this stage. This is the amount of audience members there will be. This is the space the audience will take. And then you want to trust your event vendor to do it correct. And you do not want to look at your bid and say, oh, is that one too many speakers? Is that one too many lights? Because really you should trust your event vendor to get it right. From my standpoint on stage, you're like, Sasha, why do you care so much about the number of speakers? Well, audio clarity matters. Audio clarity is mission critical in a fundraising event. It's not just a matter of, can I hear the sounds coming from the people on stage? Can I understand them? Can I hear their vocal tones and textures? Can I hear the nuance of their words? And here is why when I say you don't want to be asking your event professional, could you go down on the number of speakers? Because you cannot solve clarity with volume. I don't know if I'm getting too technical,
Amen.
But you cannot solve clarity with volume, meaning if I show up to an event and there's a room with a speaker and I am the human who's going to be on microphone, and the human who therefore is going to have everybody coming up to them there when they're like, oh my God, you're killing my ear. Some people, and then other people across the room are like, I can't understand a thing you're saying. Are you talking? Yes, I'm talking. It sounds like wah, 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 wah over there. If you're like really getting into the weeds about the number of speakers when your AV technician is talking to you, you're focusing your time and energy on the wrong thing. You can ask your vendor, are there other strategies for the ways that we can cut this total expense? Hopefully it's not labor, right? We have to pay people a living wage. They have to have healthcare insurance and all that sort of stuff. But you can't solve, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on with my cough, but don't worry. It's not COVID. I think I just ate too quickly before coming into this room and have something in the back of my throat. So you can't solve clarity with volume, because what you're going to do is you're going to put too few speakers. In order for anybody to hear, you're going to have to pot that speaker all the way up, and then some people are getting blasted and some people are not able to understand what you're saying. Clarity means you want to saturate sound. You want a nice even blanket of sound, which means you need speakers in various placements all around the room. So when it comes to a fundraising event, I am extremely persnickety about sound, because sound directly impacts success in auctions and in Raise the Paddles. Audio clarity helps an audience stay focused and engaged. Audio clarity, not volume, helps an audience stay happy. When we're hurting audiences' ears or when they can't understand us, audiences get grumpy. What does grumpy mean? I am less engaged. What does less engagement mean? I'm not sticking with it to the end, meaning now our nonprofit is raising less money. So everything that we do in the nonprofit fundraising environment is aimed at supporting your program and supporting your guests and having the best experience they can have while they're in this room with you. And it all relates to engagement, and engagement relates to money. So that is not the area where I would try to find cost savings. My name is Sasha Summer Cousineau. You can reach me at sasha@rebelrouserevents.com. I would be more than happy to have any length of conversation with you about any other way to save money other than cutting money with your mission critical vendors.
I appreciate that, and it's definitely something that that we talk to folks about all the time in terms of like, all right, we need to work with you. Obviously, every event has a budget that we need to work with, and I'm always leaning on the last thing that needs to go is audio. And even from a production standpoint, when we're like filming, right, where it's like I rather have pristine or the best audio possible and maybe not the best lighting or maybe not the best something else, because if you can't hear it, you're just gonna disengage. Like you'll deal with, like, we were watching a movie, we'll deal with great sound and okay picture. But if it's in the reverse, if it's great picture, 4K, amazing 3D glasses, and it sounds horrible, oh, we're done.
Yeah.
We're not engaged. So
and
it's like,
I'm not trying to make the case that lighting is not also important in an in-person event, but sound is number one most critical, particularly if you're doing an auction.
It's a close second.
The paddle. But, lighting is also important. So, I mean, I just say go to tried and true, trusted, vetted vendors. You can ask around to other event professionals. They're going to steer you to somebody who's good, because my reputation is on the line when I give a referral, right? Absolutely. I want to look like a competent event professional. I want to look like somebody who knows what they're talking about. I don't give bad referrals for that reason. And then trust your vendors to take, the amount of money that you agree on for that package and do right by you, and don't get in the weeds with the stuff like that. Like, let your vendors do their job well. And what you need to do is see a lower bottom line, then say, what are some other solutions? What are some creative ways? But again, Sasha@rebelrouserevents.com. I am more than happy to talk about other ways to save you money. And I have many, many ways that will save you money other than trying to nickel and dime your really mission critical event vendors.
Oh, that's truth there. You kind of spoke about it a little bit, but wanted to go a little bit deeper on what do the best fundraising events do differently?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, so relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. And so I'm really magical on stage. I'm not trying to be humble. I know what I'm good at, and I'm very good at
that. You
job,
are. I can vouch.
Right?
I can vouch.
And like,
it's an experience.
Thank you. I'm very good at my job. Yet and still, I cannot manufacture money, right? So I can't just make money appear in the room. So the thing about an event doesn't exist in a silo separate from the rest of your work. When we are eventing our best, your event plan dovetails into the rest of your annual development plan. When we're eventing our best, your donors are not people who show up one time a year and are treated like ATMs. And again, I have to cough, and I'm so sorry. Edit that out in post, JK. So they are people who you are in dialogue with, literal or metaphorical, but they're people you're in relationship with, in community with, having conversations with all around the year. So the more donor cultivation stewardship you're doing all around the year, the more your event is going to win on event day, and the more you have the opportunity to grow your event. So that's the first thing. Relationships are important. But then taking the idea of relationships even deeper. Know who comes to your event. Know who's showing up into the room, and the why. People come to you and they have lived experience. They have values. they have hopes and dreams. They show up to your event because of what your organization is, what your organization represents, who you serve, the way you serve, and the impacts you're helping create in the world. So what are those intersections between your organization and your audience? What are the connection points? That's part of the relationship. Lean into those connection points. And anywhere we can say, people arrive into our room, us specifically, these people specifically, because X, Y, Z. Well, now people are like, what's the best theme? Should we do disco? Should we do roaring 20s? Should we do aliens in outer space? Sure, great. Don't threaten me with a good time. I have a whole costume room. I am down for all of those things. But you know what's really the best theme? Your nonprofit organization. How do you make your nonprofit organization the theme? What are the literal and creative ways that you can bring your work, your vibe, your culture, your impacts, your language, your whys, your hows, your clients, your community? What are the literal ways and the creative ways that we can bring those into the event and make your nonprofit the theme, right? That's about relationships. The other thing about relationships, the joy of an event that happens annually is we have the opportunity to go do some good work. Afterwards, take it, look at it, ask questions about it, be curious about it, and go do even better work the next year. So be a data nerd. Data tells stories. I'm a data nerd. I love to review a nonprofit's data from their any income stream during the event. I like to look at trends. I like to look at idiosyncrasies. I like to wonder why. I like to look for content cues as to why something might have happened financially in that room the way it did. And then I like to make educated guesses about, okay, our audience is talking to us. They're explaining X, Y, and Z to us with their spending behavior in your room. How do we tell your audience, hey, I really actually see you. I see you. And we're creating this experience for you. And we are in conversation with you. And we're right sizing our price points of our income streams, be they games or silent auctions. I mean, silent auctions can pretty much hit the road as far as I'm concerned, but whatever. If you're still doing them, fine. Let's make them the best they can be. How do we make your live auction a razzle-dazzle showstopper? How do we make your Raise the Paddle the heart, the center, and the most important fundraising moment of the whole event? We do all of that by being in relationship with our community, by knowing who's showing up and why, by looking at the data from previous years and being curious, right, about that data and looking for that data to tell us a story about how our guests like to behave in our event environment. And then we curate the experience to that. We curate the storytelling to make those connections between their lived experience, their values, their hopes and dreams, and our nonprofit's mission and work and impacts and the communities that we serve. That's part of relationship building. We look at the data. That's part of relationship building. We look at right sizing, the number of asks and the price points. That's relationship building. When we do all of those things, we say to our audience, I see you. We are here together. I'm in conversation with you, right? And then when we make our nonprofit the theme, there are exponential joyful ways that can be expressed in an event environment. It can start with how you advertise the event. It can be the recognition that you've purchased your ticket. It can be our website. It can be our social media presence leading up to it. It can be the way we package and curate and present, if we're doing them, our silent auction. It can be a mission-driven, mission-aligned live auction, small, crisp, tightly curated, and impactful. But most of all, time, energy, effort, resources should go into the Raise the Paddle or the Ask if you're not doing a Raise the Paddle, because that is the place where most of your community gets to meet you. Maybe not everybody's going to meet you there during the event, but most of your community gets to meet you during the Raise the Paddle. It is the most community moment of your event. And so that is where most of your time, energy, and resources should be going. So all of this is about relationships. Everything in nonprofit fundraising is relationships, and the event is not separate.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is keep those relationships, make those relationships, and don't just treat it like it's just a one-day thing. And like you said, it just isn't. We're not here to just invite a bunch of ATMs. Like these should be. And if those are the people that are coming, then we probably need some new people, right?
You know, like you could. So when I say treating people like ATMs, I mean tapping them for money every time they turn around in your event.
Right.
May I have money? May I have money? May I have money? May I have money? Because if you're like nickeling and diming your audience to death before we've ever even gotten to the ask or the raise the paddle, they're going to be exhausted by the time they get there, and they're not going to do their best work for you. Right. And that's a big missed opportunity. So we have to right size the timing and the number of asks. We have to right size the price points we're asking people to participate in. But more than anything, we should be telling your story. That's the most important thing you can do in a nonprofit fundraising event is tell your story. And when you said, what do the best nonprofit events look like? When I go to your event and I don't mistake it for anybody else's, that's what the best nonprofit event looks like, because you have so fully leaned into your specific organization's mission, vision, values, vibe, culture, voice, your resonance, your voice, right? You've leaned so hard into it, and you have found intellectual ways of expressing it, artful ways of expressing it, joyful ways of expressing it. Maybe you've thrown some whimsy in there, but all of it pivots back to who are we? What do we do? Why are we unique and exceptional? What are the impacts that we're helping to create in the world? When it all pivots back to you, that's the best event.
No, I love that. I love that. And now I want to pivot to something around, so event based, but something that they, again, try to provide some values for some folks out there. Because, you know, I do grow tired of things that are very like cut and paste and cookie cutter. And you see it because some people will go to an event like, oh, we're just going to do exactly what they did. And it's like, no, that worked for them for that reason. Now, I love that you are thinking about things and you can draw inspiration from, but you also needed to bring it back in and make it yours, right?
Yes.
But one thing that I want to talk about is what's something that you wish every nonprofit knew about pacing? Because I know that you being an MC, that is so important. And then when they kind of run a show at you and like, no, this is not going to work.
So many things.
The pace is way off. But could you explain to the people a little bit about the importance of it? And you spoke a little bit about it in terms of like not nickel and diming and stuff, but how the pace matters.
Well, also in terms of storytelling. So like this is a really good dovetail, Carlos, in terms of like, I talked about income streams, but now we're talking about basically the story that is told in the environment. And the story starts before we get on stage, right? It starts from the time that somebody walks in the door and is greeted and checks in. And then what do they experience in your pre-stage environment? How do they experience the transition between that and sitting down for dinner, for doing dinner, and then the stage show? And here is the thing that I say all of the time. Less is more. A simpler event plan is a better event plan. We don't want everything but the kitchen sink on your one most special day where you're in community with your donors. What we want is a curated, thoughtful, strategic, and artful storytelling experience. And so what I tell, it's hard when you're having been the person who worked for a nonprofit organization, and I feel the pressure of making the case, which means I need to tell everything we've ever done and everything we're doing right now and everything we're going to do in the near future. And I need to tell you about every single program and every single time we were exceptional and amazing. I also need to tell you about every single hurdle we faced. No, you don't. Nope. No, you don't. You know why? Because an audience can only hold so much. They can only hold so many messages when they're drinking wine and eating dinner and in community. Maybe they haven't seen that person since last year and they're so excited to see that person at this event again this year. There is only so much your audience can hold. Only so many times we can tap them and ask them for their attention, particularly their undivided attention. So every minute on stage needs to be worth its weight in your fundraising goal, right? So I say less is more. A simpler event plan is a better event plan. I'd rather see you ace 3 things than get a C+ at 20. So one of the things I tend to guide my clients to do to help focus is long before event day, before you've even written a thing down about your event, vision. The power of visioning is so important, right? So pull way, way, way back to that macro lens. Get out of the minutia. Get out of the fine details. Pull way, 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 way back. And you want to tell your story of your organization this year. You're not telling the story of every year of all time. You're not telling the story of the past. You're not telling the story of 5 years from now. What is most salient and most resonant for your organization this year? And how does that lend itself to what's coming up next? A donor who gives $1 today wants to know what the impact tomorrow is going to be. They wouldn't tell you, I don't care about your past, but they don't really, because their dollar doesn't fund the past. Time moves in one direction. So when they give you $1 today, they want to know what's happening in the near future. So what is most resonant? What's most salient? What's most exceptional? What's most challenging? What's happening right now this year in our organization? Can I come up with one broad messaging point, like one top level messaging point that sort of artfully encompasses what this year is like? And then maybe 1, 2, or 3 at most sub points that help make that case of that broad overarching messaging point. And then once you've, workshop that with your team, maybe you take it to your board, maybe you take it to some of your best donors, but you're like, yes, this is our one overarching statement. And here's our 1, 2, or 3 subheadings under that statement that help us make that point. Then every element of your event is a tap back to those ideas. Every element. Your silent auction if you do one, your fundraising games if you do them, your stage programs certainly, your live auction. Can we find ways to put those points in there? Absolutely, you're raise the paddle. But you're finding ways to take those ideas and artfully weave them over and over. We're not restating the same thing over and over again. We're artfully weaving it over and over and over again. And then what you're doing is you're making this year's beautiful piece of art that tells the story of your organization right now and what's happening in the near future. And that is about what an audience can hold at the same time that they're being in community and seeing friends and drinking wine and eating dinner. They really can't hold that much. Please don't expect your audience to hold that much. And guess what? If they want to know more information, we're all rolling around with these really little expensive little computers in our pockets, and the Google machine can help us find more information. What your job is to not say every single thing you've ever done, but to paint the picture of what is most important right now and in the very near future.
No, I love that. And like you said, there's QR codes, there's check our website, or, hey, we have an info desk over there if people do want to find out more. And there will be those, those inquisitive folks. But like you said, you only have so much time to keep these people's attention and so much information that they can intake. And these are people that like you.
Yes.
These are folks that they all chose to be
They're here because they want to be.
And even they can only take so much. So it's kind of like, don't do the brain dump. It's kind of have some respect and empathy for your crowd as well, right?
Yeah.
Like they want to receive as much as you want to give, but you have to kind of have that nice little dance there, and having that pace is so, and I love that less is more, for sure. Because we see some things and it's just like some run of shows and it's just like all these different little points and graphs, and I'm like, you're gonna lose them.
Yeah.
I was like, I would get rid of half of this. Can we talk about it? And that's where the meetings come in, and we can talk about it, and all of it is with good intention, but it's like you can't just take your annual report and just dump it onto a run of show and like press go. Like, no, that's not how this works. Let's like you said, let's find a vision. Let's find our voice here.
Well, I often
focus on what matters.
Yeah, when you see a run a show where it is like everything but the kitchen sink, where that is coming from, again, coming from the nonprofit sector and having been the young, eager, I want to do great. I mean, that's just coming from an eagerness to do great work, to really invest people, but it's coming from a lack of experience on events and how to successfully hold people's energy and engagement. And I always tell everybody, we want to get through the mission critical fundraising before anybody in your audience is tired, drunk, bored, or otherwise disengaged. And one of the keys to financial success in a fundraising event is honoring your guests' time and energy. So I tell my clients, well, think about yourself. Think about yourself as a consumer. Think about going to the mall at Christmas time. What does that feel like? It's a lot of bells and whistles and rickety-rackety, a lot of distraction, a lot of advertisements, a lot of people bustling around. Is that what you want the experience of your guests to be like at your event? Or do you want your event to feel like they're sitting down to dinner with their chosen family, their friends, people who can be in conversation with them? Do you want them to feel like they're sitting down to the most exciting book or the most exciting, like the most dramatic movie? Like, you want your art, the experience of moving through your event, to feel like art to your guests. And it doesn't even matter the size of budget that you have as a nonprofit. You can be a small nonprofit or the most well-resourced nonprofit under the sun. We all can find beautiful ways of telling our story and creative ways of making that come alive in your environment, and still like staying true to your organization's resources and budget, right? So, but it starts with visioning. It starts long before you've ever put pencil to pen, or finger to keyboard. It starts with creating a vision first and then going from there.
I love that. And rings so true. And with visions, that leads to our next part of wanting to talk. We kind of talked about how we started, what kind of drives us, the joy that we get out of the work. We try to provide some value for folks around events and how they're thinking about doing them now. But I wanted to top in a little bit about some of your vision and hope for the future of fundraising events, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, there are very many ways to fundraise for nonprofit organizations. There are very many ways to do events. For me, the dream is always aligning ourselves to our mission and our values, right? And so I hate to bring up a traumatic memory for folks, but I actually think that COVID was a great teacher. The pandemic was a great teacher for us as nonprofit fundraising professionals, as event professionals that serve the nonprofit sector, that you can truly break the thing wide open. You can break it open and examine it and say, oh, what parts of this are aligned to our values? And what parts are we just doing because it's muscle memory, because it's easy, or because everybody else does it? And what I learned from COVID is that we don't need to do every single thing that you ever see in every other fundraising event. What we need to do is effectively tell our stories and get out of our audience's way and give them the opportunity to be their best philanthropic selves, right? And that can happen in many, many ways. So I do think that there's nothing quite like an in-person event in terms of the warmth it generates, and in terms of kinetic energy is a magical thing. Like being in space with another human, feeling their energy, sharing energy, getting the warmth of a room of people, particularly of like-minded people. I'm not saying hybrid events are no good, or that virtual events are no good. I'm just saying there's nothing quite like the in-person event for the feeling it creates in your whole body, not just your mind. But virtual and hybrid events can also be joyful, artful, thoughtful, creative, strategic, and successful. So really, at the end of the day, I think like if people are puzzling about budgets and they're like, ooh, can we do an event? If so, what kind of event? What should it look like? I think, again, go back to what is it that you need to achieve? What's most important for us to share about our story? And what is so uniquely us? What is so uniquely us that it can't go by the wayside, right? And then let the rest go by the wayside. And what does that do? It opens up a lot of opportunities. So I'm going to give you one case example. I've mentioned this organization many times. I'm in very deep relationship and deep community with this organization, currently only called Pro-Choice Washington. When I worked for them back in the day for 9 years, called NARAL Pro-Choice Washington. But I worked for this nonprofit for 9 years and then went on to serve this nonprofit in a variety of capacities. I did event planning. I was their MC and catalog reader. Then I became their auctioneer. But nowadays I work with them in their in-person event in a slightly different way. I'm a fundraising MC still. Prior to the pandemic, they did a full bells and whistles, like you only saw in 2019 and before, live auction. And they did silent auction. They did 3 different kinds of games. They did raffles. They'd had a hella big live auction. Then they did the raise the paddle, and then they would sell centerpieces, and then, right? And this is all prior to the pandemic. And then in the pandemic, obviously everything got broken wide open and they had to rethink, and they did like many organizations did. And they tried on various different virtual and hybrid events on for size. But when they came out and we were back in person, they knew for sure. They were like, we're a new organization now. We have younger leadership. Our membership is more diverse in terms of age, in terms of income, in terms of race. We are not the organization we used to be. And frankly, they don't even talk about reproductive rights in the same way that they used to. Like when I worked there, we talked about it differently than it's talked about now. It's evolved. When we know better, we do better. And that would be the case with this organization. So they said, we know we don't want to go back to a full-scale auction. So what should we do? And I said, well, what's most important to you? Well, being in community and making sure our current donor community feels invited, feels seen, and feels able to participate. Well, what does that mean? What does this community look like? So we started to build an abstract. Okay, so what age are they? Are we talking about Black folks? Are we talking about brown folks? Are we talking about white folks? Who's in the room? Are they mostly female identified? Are they trans folks? Are they male identified? Like, who's in the room? And we really built a picture of who we thought was showing up in the room. And then we said, well, what do those folks like to do? Why do they care about this issue? Okay, that informs our top level messaging point, our 1, 2, or 3 subheadings. Okay, we're going to infuse that into the program. But what do they like to do? You know where they landed? They don't call it this. This is Sasha Summer Cousineau's words only, not Pro-Choice Washington's. But they have a grown and sexy brunch. That's what I call it. I call it their grown and sexy brunch. So they used to have a Saturday night, all the bells and whistles and rickety-rackety, full-scale auction. And now they have a Sunday brunch. Shorter time span. We're asking for less of people's time. You get to dress cute. Girl, do you get to wear your heels? Carry that cute ass purse? Yes, you do. Do we get to say ass on this program?
Bottomless.
Mimosas. Yes. You know what time it is, Carlos, with the mimosas. So yes. And they're feeding people, but it's not plated. They do heavy, brunch buffet. And then there's some stuff on the table when you sit down, some brunchy type accoutrement, but mostly it's mimosas and coffee is the big thing. We're asking for less of their time. We're not doing any live auction or any silent auction or any games. And what instead they're doing is they have a few little engagements, ways to donate in the environment that are really, really, really mission focused and really mission specific. And they're sort of flat fee. Hey, this is what it costs to do this thing. This is what it is. It's very about our mission. Boom. They do that thing. And then we get up for the program. The program represents the fullness, the diversity of who their current membership is. And it's short. And we don't even do a raise the paddle. We do QR code giving. We do employ matches, though. Why? Because matches work. They just work. But people are in and out in 2 hours, and they raise as much money with their grown and sexy brunch. They call it Moving Mountains, okay, staying on board with the branding. But I call it grown and sexy brunch. I showed my midriff at this event. We're getting a little bit wild when Sasha shows a midriff at an event. But they raise so much money as they did at their auction. Why? Their expense budget is so much lower. So every dollar raised is that much more meaningful, right? So the gap between expense and income, zoop,
No, I love that. And that's real, because sometimes like you're looking at literally every dollar you're getting 50 cents. And then if you can change that to 20 or 80 cents or 70 cents, like you don't raise as much, but your bottom line is right where it needs to be. And it seems like it was just more culture aligned. Was where they're at now. And I love that. And it's like you have to be in touch with who you are, because like people evolve. And just like organizations are like living things, right? They're evolving and they're responding to, you know, outside culture and influences, and like you said, your membership base and your leadership base and all those kinds of things. And you just have to be able to listen, be able to pull back and kind of read the room, as they say. And I know I love that. I love that for them. I love that for you guys, because Grown and Sexy Brunch sounds like a time was had.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I love it.
I love that. And they're able to continue on. And that's what we're talking about in terms of, regardless of where we're at, there's still a path forward, and that's the path that they found. And they can want to tell them the website they want to have conversations on how to save some money again.
Hello, my name is Sasha Summer Cousineau. You can reach me at sasha@revelrosraevents.com.
I love it. And just figure out ways on how and where we can meet where they're at. Because my thing is like I think the worst you can do is not show up. I think you have to figure out a way to engage, and that might be a virtual, that might be a toned down event. It might be going from a dinner to a brunch, but because you just lose so much momentum if you just wait till next year.
Well, and there's so many ways that you can pivot. Like I've seen other organizations don't do an in-person event at all, and they don't do a hybrid. They do a campaign. And so what they're doing is, I'm trying to think of which client did this. Attain Housing. So now they're back to an in-person event, but for a while they did a campaign, and what they did is they produced a series of videos, and they did a week of rolling out pretty short videos. And one was like me as MC. Hello, you're going to visit with us every day this week, and this is what these visits are going to look like, right? It was just a short little introductory to the campaign, but look in your inbox tomorrow. Tomorrow, you're going to hear from such and such, our program manager who delivers X, Y, and Z services. We'll see you tomorrow. Then that video came, and I opened it up. Right now, you're about to meet this person. This is the amazing work that this person does. And then the video shows that person in the field doing their work, engaging with the service population, and talking about the whys of their work, and talking about the values that inform their work and the outcomes that they're bringing to the community. And then I button it up at the end. Thank you so much. We love seeing you today on Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, check for in your inbox again. Tomorrow, you're going to hear from such and such. And so then tomorrow that video comes, but they made a week-long series of videos that really took the donor into the work in a way that you cannot do at an in-person event. I mean, of course, they were doing so ethically and with proper releases and informed consent of any participant who was receiving the services and all that sort of stuff. And there's only joyful, authentic, like full yeses from anybody who was appearing in these videos. I mean, it was really all very ethically and carefully and lovingly produced. Never trying to like marginalized, exploit or marginalize, like really thoughtfully produced. But they were able to take their donors into the work in a way that you don't get to do. Really, you're seeing how the work happens. You're seeing the impacts that it's making. You're seeing the way, because how we provide services matters. Almost anybody can feed another person, but the way we feed another person matters. Am I seeing this as a whole human being with a whole past, a whole current life that is full, with a person with agency, a person with hopes and dreams? Am I seeing this whole person, right? And so anybody can feed a person, but we can't all feed them in a way that is values aligned and really ethical. This organization is a housing organization. They're so beautiful in the way that they meet the whole human and the whole family where they're at. And getting to see a glimpse inside that work, little glimpse, 60-second video, 3-minute video. I think maybe the longest video was 5 minutes, but most of them were like between, 60 seconds and 3 minutes in the span of this campaign. And of course, there's an ask. gently attached to each and every one of these videos.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the culminating video, they said, hey, we loved being in community with you. We loved sharing this time with you. And we would love for you to invest in this work. And here's how you can do that. So they turned it into a 100% arriving into your email or arriving on your social media video campaign. And they were able to raise really great money doing that. And they, wow, talk about a lower expense budget.
Right.
I mean, you're not renting a venue. You're not catering.
You're not feeding.
Now you're paying talented storytellers. Of course, your staff is probably the best, like, people to shape the story, but then hire somebody like Elite Collective or another really skilled, experienced AV company who has videography and storytelling experience to help you package this and deliver the values, the vibe, the culture that you want to represent, and send that to people's inboxes and to their social media. So there's so many ways that you can raise money, so many ways that you can, listen, these programs are critical. We need nonprofits. We need our hearts and our moral compasses. We need to fund their programs. There's a lot of ways we could do it. So if we're puzzling, I don't have enough money for an in-person event, puzzle no longer. Come talk to your tried and true event professionals. We can help you.
If there's a will, there's a way.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm loving that. And then I wanted to go into some fun things.
Yes, lay it on me.
And on some joy.
I love fun.
So I wanted to start with to hear about either your dream event, dream client, or dream cultural shift.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a dream. Okay. My dream. It's hard to say my dream client. I mean, that's like, there's so many amazing nonprofits out there who I'm values aligned with, and I could never pick. There's just too many good ones.
It's like picking kids.
So my dream event.
Sure.
God, my dream cultural shift. That's easy. My dream cultural shift is that every member of our community has a meaningful opportunity to contribute, and that they feel invited to do so. That's my dream cultural shift. My dream event, I think, my dream event happens in an iconic Seattle cultural institution, something that we know just by looking at it, like PacSci or the Art Museum or the aquarium or the zoo or Langston Hughes, or something that when we look at it, we just know I'm in Seattle just by looking at it, right? Like, you immediately know a lot about the culture and the place just by looking at this space because it's an iconic cultural institution. My dream event has no silent auction, has engagements in the environment when people arrive that feel joyful and fun to participate in, but also teach you something at the same time about the nonprofit that you're there to support and costs no money to play. Right? You just show up and you get to do these things that feel fun, but you're not spending any money yet. My dream event has a beautifully crafted, fairly short in length stage program that is multimedia, that involves every element of the senses. Holy wow. Could the caterer get in on the action? Right? Can we use sound and visuals and what's happening live and what's pre-recorded and also what people are eating and drinking to tell the story? Oh, getting tingles. And as much as some people might hate this, but I love it, my dream event always involves a raise the paddle. A raise the paddle can be done in a way that I feel is very community-centered, that is very egalitarian, that invites every member of our audience to participate, that celebrates everybody's contribution joyfully and authentically. But also, you get to be strategic, right? And you get to cultivate people up the giving ladder. So you're like, you're an auctioneer, you don't want a live auction? No, I don't. I don't think people need more transactions in their lives. I think they need more community, more dialogue, and more beauty and more joy. And I think we can achieve all of those with the thing I just described.
I love that. Hopefully we get to do AV at that event. That event sounds like a ball for sure. No, that's awesome. And then we wanted to close out with our quick fire round.
Ooh, okay.
So just real quick answers, things that just pop in your head. So your dream playlist track for that high energy paddle race. What's planned?
Okay, I'm gonna give the lamest answer. Please ask Carlos Imani what you think is best there. You don't want me spending money on or spending my time and energy on your music. You want me spending time and energy on your strategy.
Okay.
Bing.
Fair enough. Or we can go back. I think you have someone in your family that might be good at a DJ list or two that could provide.
Oh, hey, my wife.
She might be able to give you a song. So
she might have some ideas.
We'll add that later as a little subtitle of wife suggested this song. So we'll add that in post. Most underrated part of a good event.
Most underrated part of a good event. Oh, parking. So
come on now. I wasn't even thinking that. I was like, the chicken. But yes, parking.
Not having your guests feel flustered when they arrive. And I'm not talking, you don't have to get valet parking. Just think about spaces that have parking.
I hate a track.
Especially when our femmes are wearing high heels,
right?
And
dressed
trying to get in the
walk
rain,
3 blocks.
Hair done. Like parking.
I know. I love that. What's one ritual you do before going on stage?
Okay, you're going to laugh so hard at me.
I'm here for it.
I'm an elder gay, y'all. Fabulous silver fox. Yes, I am. I'm leaning into my years. I take ibuprofen before I put on my shoes. because high heels hurt my feet now.
Okay.
So I take ibuprofen before I put on my shoes.
I appreciate that. That's like preemptive, right? You're like, hey, I'm setting myself up for success.
Yes.
Which then turns into success for your event.
Yes.
It's a win for everybody.
Look, we don't want the dogs barking while I'm on stage.
I love it. What's one thing people don't know about the job of an auctioneer? Because, you go up there, it doesn't look like you do much.
Oh, right. I think that people perceive the job of an auctioneer is to milk every last dollar and cent out of the room that they possibly can. And maybe that's the job of some auctioneers, but it's not the job of this auctioneer. I am not going to shoot myself in the foot or my nonprofit partner in the foot tomorrow for $1 today. I am going to care for this donor community and make everything feel joyful so that they want to come back next year. So I don't believe it's my job to eke every single dollar and cent out of the room. Yeah.
Feel like you're buying a timeshare in Mexico?
No, that's not my vibe.
I love that. And if you weren't holding a mic, you'd be?
Walking my dog?
There we go. I'm here for that. All the puppy parents out there. Seattle is known for that. But yeah, that pretty much just wraps it up. And I have so much gratitude for you sitting there and sharing. I knew it was going to be a good conversation, but I learned something today. So that means I'm sure people out there learned some things, and we'll make sure to add all the links and whatnot for folks to get in touch. And a lot of it, like you said, is just conversation. It's community. I might not be the right fit for you, but chances are we can have a conversation that can lead you in the right direction. And sometimes I'm not the right fit this year, and maybe we are next year.
Exactly.
And it's just a matter of just building community and building with folks and sharing resources. And for me, it's like, let me just share with you 10 things that I learned because they did not go the way I thought they were going to go over the last 10 years, and share that with you at the very least, so that we can set people up for success as they move forward. But just thank you for showing up today and showing out and sharing. And here's your moment. You got your camera over there if you want to share any last things with the people.
Oh, I'm down to have conversations about anything. Like Carlos was just saying, I might not be your girl, right? I am not for everybody, and that's okay. The people I am for, I'm very for. But I didn't invent most of this stuff, right? I have my very specific experience and filters through which I see my work. But I didn't invent most of this stuff, and I'm really happy to share. So if people want to have conversations, I'm really, like you said, you don't have to bump your head or stub a toe in order to learn what I know. I already bumped my head and stubbed my toe. So learn from my pain points, and you don't have to have those same pain points, right? I'm just really happy to share information regardless of whether or not somebody wants to hire me, because again, nonprofit organizations are the hearts and moral compasses of our communities. We need them. We need their programs. Therefore, it behooves me to show up for them. And so I'm happy to be in conversation if people just want to pick my brain. Come, let's chat.
No, I love it. So yeah, thanks again.
Yay.
All right, guys, that wraps up another episode of Elite Insights. Hopefully you got some insights, you got some value, and you'll be able to check us out next time. Thanks, guys.